We have breaking news from the Vancouver Canucks organization. They've come to terms with Brock Boeser. We'll discuss the contract, how it affects the team, and other future moves we could see this offseason coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some big news out of Vancouver. The Canucks and pending restricted free agent forward Brock Boeser have come to terms on a new contract, avoiding arbitration and avoiding that qualifying offer that would have to be done if they wouldn't have been able to come to terms here pretty soon. So the deal is a 3-year contract valued at $6.65 million. So many felt going into this negotiation, I've seen reports from Canucks media going into even a few months ago, this might be a type of contract we see in the scenario as a bit of a compromise. Of course, his last contract had a backloaded offer like many RFA deals did so that they could get a bigger qualifying offer and kind of force teams into giving them a bigger raise on their next contract. The $7.5 million, which is what was owed on a qualifying offer if they couldn't come to terms ahead of time. Now, of course, the plan here was for Brock Boeser to be a little bit more successful during his last contract to earn that AAV and be a 7.5 or better contract going into the next one. However, things haven't quite worked out that way, largely due to the fact that he's been quite injury prone during his career. Brock Boeser is a really good player. I think he has potential to be a 35 to 40 goal scorer, but so far in his career, he's been consistently between 23 to 29 goals in 4 out of 5 seasons so far in the NHL. But like I said, a lot of that is because he hasn't really played an 82-game season yet. Now, last year, when the shortened season was a 56-game campaign, he did appear in every game for Vancouver. Now, of course, the numbers weren't quite as good in that season. That was his down year, but at least he was able to stay healthy, even though he might have had some struggles offensively speaking. But the health has been a big part of his concern here. I mean, Brock Boeser can play an 82-game campaign, or at least much closer to it, hitting like 35, 37, 38 goals should be very reasonable, maybe even higher if he continues to grow and develop as a player, and depending on his line mates and how much chemistry they have, etc. So to me, I think this is a good compromise. Getting a long-term deal at $7.5 or more million just wasn't in the cards between the Canucks cap situation and based on recent performance, like I said, around his health and what he's put up for numbers. So this is a good deal, I really think. Anyways, only issue, I guess, the risk involved here is it does get him to UFA status probably a little bit sooner than you'd think. I mean, obviously, teams want to lock up their players and pay for UFA years, especially if they're considered like a core player that they don't want to lose, right? So in his 3-year deal, 2 years are RFA years and only 1 UFA year. So ultimately, it gets him to UFA status pretty quick. He'll be 25. Obviously, at the beginning of the contract, he'll be 28 when the contract is over, and he'll be a UFA unless he extends before that. But this does a number of things. It gives Rutherford and Alvin a chance to kind of reevaluate this team over the next couple of years. It gives Brock Boeser a chance to prove what his next contract should be by hopefully staying healthy and putting up better numbers. And it also allows the team to kind of navigate through this flat cap era, see some increases. We know that they're looking for cap flexibility and are going to make other moves here. And at the same time, the other good thing about this contract is it really staggers when all the other deals that are, for the important players on the team especially, are going to be expiring. So this contract expires a year after Pettersson. So obviously Pettersson has 2 more years on his deal, where Boeser has 3, so they're different. He gets 2 years before Quinn Hughes, so of course that's a different timing as well, and 1 year before Thatcher Demko. If you look at these 4 guys as kind of being the core, because obviously we don't know the future of JT Miller yet. He very well could be a player who's dealt, because that's the big rumor around most of the players here. Boeser's name was mentioned a lot as well, because teams weren't sure how they were going to navigate and get this contract done. I mean, I can't say 100% certainty and rule out the possibility that Boeser gets traded, but I think with this kind of contract now, I think they're going to be happy enough with the deal that they probably would really do not want to do that. So I would look to guys like Miller or Garland, or maybe somebody on the blue line, to be moved for cost cutting, because we know that they're going to want to find flexibility here, and that's certainly something that we're likely going to see. I mean, there's been lots of talk about JT Miller. I know the comments from Rutherford and Alvin today indicate they love to keep Miller and they want to get him signed, and that's been the same talk, but we're hearing reports from NHL reporters and insiders saying that they've been actually not only talking about Miller, but like pretty well actively shopping him. So to me, I think they're really concerned about going too much term and too much money on a player who's going to be north of 30. And you never know. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. I just don't see a scenario where they're going to get a deal done with Miller, because I think the offers coming in are going to be too good to pass up. It's probably going to get done here within the next week, because I would imagine a first-round pick at this year's draft probably going to be included. At least you would think so. I mean, maybe things change, but that's what I would predict if I had to make a prediction here right now. So overall, I think this is a pretty good signing for Vancouver. Obviously, we saw some other news here today as well. They did make a couple of adjustments on their coaching staff. Brad Shaw is not going to be an assistant coach there any longer. He's heading to Philadelphia to be an associate coach. Of course, Philly's new coach is John Tortorella. Shaw worked with Torts quite a bit before in Columbus. They have a history together, so no real big surprise there. And going back the other way, it's almost like they traded coaches, but Mike Yeo has been hired as an assistant coach in Vancouver now to work with Bruce Boudreau. So certainly, like it's almost like a swapping of assistant coaches, if you will. And we'll see what happens here. But I know Vancouver's made some other front office moves lately. They're going to be a busy team. I know Rutherford himself credited assistant GM Emily Castonguay as being a big factor in getting this contract done. I know Boeser's agent Ben Hankinson made comments today saying that things really heated up earlier today and they were able to get a compromise. The qualifying offer in arbitration would have had to be done here very shortly, so it was nice to get that in ahead of time. They didn't really want to go to arbitration because things can get ugly and nasty, and if you've been following my channel for a long time, you've heard me say numerous times that I've studied it and looked at the stats and the long-term effects. It's a really high percentage of players that go through arbitration hearings don't have a long history with the team after. It quite often does damage to the relationship, and within 1 to 2 years, that player, it's almost like 3/4 of the time, is gone, whether it be through free agency or via trade. It happens quite a bit, so you want to avoid that whenever possible. We don't usually see too many arbitration hearings each year. There's usually maybe a couple at most, sometimes a little bit more, but that's about it. So this is good for Vancouver on multiple standpoints. I really like this contract. I like how they have things staggered. Now it's a matter of watching what else they do to find that all-important flexibility that we've heard Rutherford go on about a lot since he's been involved in the mix here in Vancouver. So let me know your thoughts on the Boeser signing in Vancouver, and we'll discuss in the comments. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.